Hey, I'm honestly glad you're here. Really. And if you feel like hitting subscribe while you're at it, that would make me even happier. Okay, let's get into this. She said it as casually as someone asking for the time. No warning, no build-up, just a clean cut. Ethan's in town, Hannah murmured, slicing an avocado with unnerving calm in our pristine marble kitchen. We're going to catch up, just us. He's only here a few days. My hands were wet from rinsing dishes. I shut off the faucet, dried them slowly, buying time I knew I didn't have. I stayed silent, hoping maybe she'd fill the quiet with something else. She didn't. The knife kept gliding, smooth and unbothered. "Didn't you and Ethan date?" I asked finally, keeping my voice steady. "That was 10 years ago, David." The blade hit the sink harder than it needed to. "You're not seriously jealous, are you?" I crossed my arms and leaned against the counter. "I could come." She turned, apron still tied tight, eyes sharp as glass. "Why? You never even liked him." "Maybe I want to see what version of you shows up when he's around." That hit her. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut as she braced herself. "This is exactly the problem." "What problem?" "You assume the worst. I can't grab coffee with an old friend without you turning it into a crime scene." "Let's call it what it is, Hannah. A date. Saves us both the pretending." Her face cracked for half a second. Guilt, fury, something in between, before she fixed it back in place. "You're being unfair. And you're being vague." We stood there, 10 feet apart but on opposite planets. The only sounds were the faint hum of the dishwasher and the soft click of her wedding band tapping against the counter. Finally, I said it. Quiet. Heavy. "Then go." The air shifted. Her lips parted like she might respond, but no words came. She grabbed her bag, muttered something about traffic, and left. The door closed behind her, soft but final. And I stood in a house that used to feel alive, quiet routines, small bursts of laughter, now hollow. Let me rewind. My name's David Reed, architect, 42. The kind of guy who reads old novels on lunch breaks and still thinks handwritten notes matter. For 12 years, I've built houses for strangers and memories for us. Or so I thought. From the outside, our life looked flawless. Designer appliances, airy open floor plans, polished smiles at dinner parties. But inside, frostbite. Months of it. I told myself it was stress, work trips, her moods, the slow dimming of passion over time. But now I see it clear as glass. The signs had been blinking. Canceled date nights, her quiet slide from we to I, the secretive smiles at texts I was never meant to see. It's strange how you can share meals, a bed, daily chatter, and still lose someone without ever noticing when it happened. Somewhere between silence and her footsteps leaving, I understood what this was. I wasn't even allowed to flinch at the thought of her meeting the man she once loved, alone. And in that moment, something in me settled. No shouting, no begging, no accusations. You don't fight for someone already weighing your worth and finding you wanting. Betrayal doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers, sharp as any blade. And I knew exactly how I'd respond. The door clicked shut behind her, soft, almost gentle, but the silence it left behind roared. I stood in that picture-perfect kitchen, sub-zero fridge humming, pendant lights casting warm gold over spotless counters, the avocado abandoned mid-slice. It felt staged, like the actors had left, forgetting to strike the set. Eventually, I brewed chamomile tea. Not because I wanted it, but because habit is stubborn when your heart doesn't know what else to do. I carried the mug into the den, that sunken room off the living space, lined with shelves I'd built myself. They still held old yearbooks, dusty binders, keepsakes no one touched. I sat on the edge of the leather couch, opened my laptop, and dug through an old folder labeled Commissions, Archive. Years since I'd touched it. Client sketches, half-finished drafts, concepts abandoned mid-idea. Buried deep was a subfolder, Hollow Creek, 2017. That project never broke ground. But the work? The work mattered. It was the first time I'd collaborated with Claire Hayworth. Claire, the kind of woman whose laugh could fill cathedral ceilings and make cynics believe in miracles. We dreamed up concepts together. She painted in broad strokes. I grounded it in structure. It worked. Until the project collapsed. Until life and Hannah's insecurities steered me elsewhere. Claire burned too bright. But tonight, I didn't feel guilty pulling her back into my orbit. Her number was still saved in my phone. Claire, Blueprint Witch. The name made me smile despite everything. I typed, "Hey, stranger. Ever miss building impossible things just for the poetry of it?" 3 dots. Then nothing. Then 3 dots again. Then a voice note. Her voice, warm and amused, crackled through. "David Reed, either you're nostalgic or recklessly bored. Which is it? What's the scheme?" I sent back a voice note of my own. "Claire, I've got something poetic in mind. Quiet, personal, beautiful in a tragic way." Pause. Then another note from her. "That sounds like either love or revenge. Lucky for you, I've got wine, time, and perfect timing. What do you need?" I didn't answer right away. I sipped my tea, let the heat settle. The plan wasn't fully formed yet, but I knew the shape of it. More importantly, I knew what it wouldn't be. I wouldn't yell, wouldn't beg, wouldn't prove myself to someone who'd already stopped seeing me. This wouldn't be a tantrum. It would be deliberate, a quiet presence, a shift. Let her notice the change, not through fury, but through calm, through gentleness that no longer reached for her. I closed the laptop with care. Satisfaction thrummed low in my chest. I texted Claire again. "Tomorrow. 7. Bring groceries. Bring stories. Bring that laugh. We're going to cook something that smells like memory." And as I set the mug down and walked alone toward the bedroom, I knew. Tonight, Hannah walked away. Tomorrow she'd learn what it felt like when I didn't follow. By the time the doorbell rang, dusk had melted the sky into that lavender haze that made our kitchen look unreal. The light spilling through the doorway softened the edges of everything it touched, giving the illusion of a gentler world than the one I'd been living in. I swung the door wider, and there she was, Claire Hayworth. A grocery bag hooked over one arm, a bottle of red wine balanced loosely in the other, wind-tossed hair framing that unmistakable smirk. She didn't pause for greetings or invitations. She stepped over the threshold like she'd never forgotten which drawer held the pepper grinder. "Still looks like a catalog spread in here," she said, unloading her haul onto the island counter. "But you? Yeah, you've got a few miles on you now." I laughed under my breath. Can't argue with that. Her movements were precise, practiced. Chicken thighs, fresh rosemary, leeks, a crusty loaf of bread. Real food, not the takeout cartons I'd been living on. The care in her choices felt intentional, almost like an unspoken apology neither of us had the words to say. We slipped into a rhythm almost instantly. Familiar, effortless. The kind of synchronicity we'd once had during frenzied late-night deadlines, sketching plans until dawn. She stirred while I chopped. I set the table as she tasted the sauce. It was muscle memory, this dance we'd forgotten we knew. "So," Claire said, leaning against the counter with a half-filled glass, "are we drafting blueprints tonight, or rebuilding something bigger?" I hesitated, knife midair. Maybe both. Maybe neither. Maybe I just wanted a room to feel warm again. Her expression softened. "You're allowed that. You always were." The conversation wandered without effort. Her dog's surgery last winter, the job I'd turned down in New York, her endless fixation with mood boards, my alphabetized spice rack that hadn't changed since we were 25. We teased. We laughed. And the kitchen transformed around us, no longer sterile, no longer a silent monument to what had been broken. The air thickened with rosemary and garlic butter, her music low from the phone speaker, the kind of warmth that settles in and lingers. Somewhere between stirring rice and topping off our glasses, she grabbed my hand and spun me clumsily, both of us missing the beat but laughing anyway. And in that moment, it hit me. I felt good. Not in defiance of anyone, not because of Hannah, just Good. This feels reckless, I muttered. What? Claire grinned. Cooking with someone who actually listens to you? No venom, no accusation, just truth. We didn't touch again after that. Not in a way that mattered, but the silence between us carried weight. When the food was finally plated and the dishes left to soak, we retreated to opposite sides of the breakfast nook, wine glasses in hand, a candle flickering in the middle. Claire rested her chin in her palm. She doesn't realize it yet, she said quietly. Realize what? That you've already let her go. I studied our reflections in the blackened window, two strangers, side by side. I'm not sure I have. You will, Claire murmured. You've already started laying the foundation. I didn't answer. I just drank. The silence fractured with the groan of the front door. Hannah. Her heels clicked across the tile and stopped abruptly. A sharp intake of breath. Claire didn't flinch. She topped off her wine and nodded toward the sound. Your wife's home. I rose, moving toward the sink. Not startled, not welcoming, just moving. Hannah stepped inside, hair windswept, lips parted in something between surprise and suspicion. Claire, she said brightly, too brightly. 3 years, 4 months, Claire replied coolly, if memory serves. The air thickened, brittle. Hannah's eyes darted across the scene, wine, dishes, me, the ease of it all. I didn't know we had company, she managed. We don't, I said evenly. Claire's not company, she's part of the house. The words landed sharp as a pin. And when I brushed past Hannah for dessert plates, I caught it, the first crack in her perfect composure. Tonight was the first time she saw what life looked like when she wasn't at the center. The clink of ceramic on stone seemed louder than it should have been. I set 3 plates, one for Claire, one for me, and one where Hannah used to sit. She stayed standing, coat still slung over her arm, frozen between flight and confrontation. Claire leaned back, swirling her glass lazily. David made the lemon tart, she said. Crust's a little heavy on the butter, but he's getting his hands back. You doubled the butter, I said with a grin. Sabotage, she replied, smirking. The playful cadence in her voice pulled me back to all those sleepless nights over concept boards, half delirious, half alive. Hannah stepped forward, smile strained. Smells lively in here, she offered. Claire didn't answer. She just tapped her fork lightly against the rim of her glass, a clear, ringing note. There weren't enough seats at the table, but I grabbed the extra chair anyway, set it near the edge of the island without offering it to Hannah, and sat down. You look surprised, I said to her. Didn't expect her. Claire's gaze never left Hannah as she took a bite of tart. Strange, she said softly. I used to be part of every draft David drew up. Guess I'm just an old blueprint now. Claire brought groceries, I said. Thought we'd cook. Catch up. Right, Hannah said flatly. Catching up like old times. No, Claire murmured, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. Better than old times, no second-guessing anymore. The words hung heavy in the room, sweet and sharp at once. Hannah's eyes found mine, searching for something steady that wasn't there. You didn't even text me, she whispered. You didn't text when you saw Ethan, I replied evenly. I figured we were both finding people we'd forgotten. The silence that followed was dense enough to touch. Hannah stood frozen, unsure whether to scream, cry, or claw back control. None of those options seemed available anymore. Claire refilled her glass. Wine, Hannah? I'm fine, Hannah said, smile brittle, eyes hollow. She didn't sit, didn't speak again, just stood there gripping her coat like it was armor. Claire leaned toward me, ignoring her entirely. We should head out to Hollow Creek next week, she said. I've got an idea to make the interior less predictable. You always hated predictable, I said. And Hannah left. No slammed door, no parting shot, just the muted thud of someone realizing the room had grown warm without them, and they were the only ones still cold. The latch hadn't even finished clicking before Claire lifted an eyebrow and murmured, Well. That went smoothly. I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Smooth, I said. if you call someone watching their own play from the wrong audience seat smooth? Claire stood stretching in that unhurried way of hers and swept both our plates into her arms in a single motion. You didn't mention she'd take it like that. I didn't know she would, I said honestly. She floats through confrontation like it can't quite reach her, like guilt's got no gravity for her. We ended up side by side at the sink. No theatrics, no whispering, just the hush of running water and the quiet clink of plates. Our thoughts spun separately but in rhythm. Claire scrubbed at a dish without looking my way. "This really about Ethan?" she asked. I froze halfway through drying a glass. "It's about erosion," I said after a pause. "You don't notice it at first. A sharp word here, a shrug there. Until," I continued, "you wake up one day and realize the woman standing in your kitchen doesn't treat you like a partner anymore. More like an appliance that still works." She handed me the last dish, her voice even. "Then maybe it's time to unplug." We drifted back toward the breakfast nook, slower now. The adrenaline had drained out, leaving something quieter, heavier, but honest. Claire tucked her knees onto the bench, the way she always did right before saying something real. "I don't think I ever liked her," she said softly. "Even back when you were wide-eyed over her. She always made rooms colder." I didn't respond. I just sipped my wine and let her words hover. They didn't sting. They hadn't for a long while. The truth vibrated low in the walls, steady and undeniable. Hannah never came back downstairs. Time blurred. Maybe an hour, maybe more. Claire found a dusty anthology on the shelf and began reading aloud. Fractured poems about time gone wrong, love bent out of shape. She laughed at the worst ones, mocked the pretentious lines, and repeated the beautiful ones twice. Her voice reached corners of the house that hadn't heard laughter in months. At some point, I noticed the digital clock blinking 11:43. "It's late," I muttered. Claire nodded but didn't move. "Want me to leave?" I hesitated. Not because I wanted her to stay, but because I wasn't ready for the moment to end. The warmth, the unarmored breathing. "You want to," she teased with a grin. "Too soon for scandal, though. Save it for next week." She stretched again, unbothered, graceful, and made her way toward the door. I followed, torn between gratitude and reluctance. At the threshold, she turned, her look cutting straight through me. "By the way," she whispered, "you didn't have to say a word tonight. That silence? Loudest thing in the room." She winked, not flirtation, but solidarity, and slipped out. I locked the door slowly, deliberately, and faced the quiet house. I didn't feel lonely. I felt still. The stillness that comes after a storm, uncertain but clean. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. I didn't look up, let her lie awake, let her measure the silence, let her wonder when exactly she stopped being the warmest thing in the room. I climbed the stairs near 1 in the morning, each step slow, drawn out, not from exhaustion, but to let the echoes ring. The bedroom was dark except for a thin glow of candlelight spilling from the bathroom. She was there. Hannah, sprawled across the bed in a silk robe the color of bruised plum. The robe she saved for anniversaries. Or apologies. The neckline gaped slightly. She wore nothing beneath. Her hair was perfect, the faint scent of jasmine hanging in the air, intimacy curated, rehearsed. Any other night it might have worked. Tonight it felt staged. "Hey," she said, syrup in her voice. "Didn't hear you come up." I nodded, stepping past her toward my side of the bed. Didn't make much noise. Her legs shifted, deliberate, crossing just enough to elongate. "You and Claire were down there a while?" I didn't respond, just pulled a clean t-shirt from the drawer and started changing. "She still has that laugh," Hannah said suddenly, almost wistful. "Always made me feel like an outsider in my own house." I froze halfway through, pulling the shirt over my head. "Funny," I said quietly. "That's how I've felt for the past year." She blinked, caught off guard. "David, I'm too tired tonight." "Let's not pretend," I replied, settling into bed. The air thickened. She straightened, her robe slipping from one shoulder, vulnerability rehearsed, too precise. "You're turning me down?" she asked, "after inviting another woman into our kitchen and flirting over lemon tart?" I turned toward her slowly, calm. That wasn't flirting. That was remembering what ease feels like, what honesty sounds like. Her expression faltered, not broken, but cracked enough to reveal what was underneath. Mascara worn thin, lip gloss faded. For the first time in weeks, I saw her without the armor. "You're punishing me," she whispered. "No," I said softly. "I'm protecting myself." And I rolled over. A small movement, but seismic. Not in anger, not to wound, but to finally stop pretending to love where love wasn't present. Behind me, the faint rustle. Maybe her leaning forward, debating whether to touch my shoulder. She didn't. She sank back, staring at the ceiling. Silence filled the room, not peaceful, but heavy, the kind of silence that screams louder than shouting, echoing through walls long after lights go out. She thought seduction could erase betrayal, that silk and perfume could overwrite neglect. But here's the truth no one says. Rejection cuts deepest when it's quiet, when there's no fight, just absence. Minutes stretched into an hour. Her breathing shifted, shallow, restless. I stayed still, eyes open, heart steady. Tonight I hadn't lost anything. She had. Morning broke pale and gray. I stepped out onto the porch with coffee in hand, mid-autumn air biting gently against skin still raw. My thoughts were blank, just craving air, quiet, a moment untainted by her presence. That's when I saw it. The trash bin tipped sideways near the path, contents spilling like confession across the gravel. I set my mug on the railing and walked over. At first glance, nothing unusual. Torn wrappers, an empty wine bottle, the flattened remains of a cereal box. Then I saw it, half buried beneath a paper towel roll, a hotel receipt. I picked it up unthinking at first. No suspicion, no rush. For a moment I assumed it was some old printout I'd thrown away. The name was what struck me first. The hotel's name, Westwood Ridge. It echoed, sharp and unwelcome, scraping the back of my mind with familiarity I couldn't deny. My gaze dropped to the date. 3 nights ago, the exact night Hannah met Ethan. The amount charged was far beyond what any dinner could cost. No meal listed, no drinks. Only one entry, premium suite, late check-in. My chest tightened and the air thinned around me. Then I saw it, another slip of paper, clinging to the bottom of the receipt, wrinkled and half-folded as if trying to disappear. A sudden draft sent it fluttering, and I caught it before it escaped. Not a bill for food, not a bar tab, just a purchase list. Travel-sized deodorant, toothbrush, makeup remover, that was all. 3 simple items, and in that instant, there was no fury, no shouting in my head. Just stillness, heavy, undeniable truth. I stepped back inside, holding the paper like fragile evidence dug from the ruins of something ancient. She was at the counter, barefoot, hair undone, my old t-shirt hanging loose over yoga pants, humming quietly as she poured herself coffee, untouched by the storm already unraveling in me. For a moment she looked unbroken. I placed both slips on the island, close enough for her to see, but I didn't speak. Her eyes flickered downward, then back up at me. A blink, a sharp inhale, but no collapse. "What's this?" My voice was calm, too calm. "You tell me," I said after a beat. Her laugh was brittle, rushed. "David, are you seriously going through trash now?" "No," I murmured. "It found me." The silence thickened, dragging seconds out until they felt like rope soaked in water. "I told you Ethan was in town," she said, carefully measured. "We got a room to talk. He needed space, privacy." "And the deodorant?" I asked. That stopped her. Her lips parted, then closed again, fingers tightening around the mug handle like it might hold her together. "I was lonely," she whispered finally. "You've been gone lately." I nodded once. So that makes it okay? Her jaw set. Number, but maybe it explains it. She reached for me. I stepped back, not harshly, just enough. Enough to say without words, not now. I need space, I said. Her eyes searched mine. You're leaving? For the weekend. Where? Anywhere but here. I turned and walked upstairs. Packed light, no slammed doors, no shouting. When I came down again, she hadn't moved, still gripping her mug at the counter like it was an anchor keeping her from drifting into open water. I passed without a word. David, wait, she called, her voice cracking. But I didn't. I'd waited long enough already. The cabin was 3 hours north, wedged between brittle pines and a still, mirror-flat lake. It wasn't mine. It belonged to Evan, a lawyer who never asked questions he didn't need answers to. I texted him, need a place. Few days. His reply came in one word. Take it. Claire picked me up halfway. Her car smelled faintly of eucalyptus and old drive-through coffee. We drove mostly in silence. Music low, her fingers drumming the steering wheel to a rhythm only she seemed to hear. A few quiet jokes passed between us. Nothing heavy. By the time we reached the cabin, warm light was spilling from the windows. Firewood stacked neatly by the hearth. A note on the table read, "Call me only if you plan to burn it down." Claire smirked. I already like him. We settled easily into a quiet routine. She unpacked tea and snacks. I lit the fire. Comfortable, not romantic. Two people who knew how to share space without stepping on wounds. I didn't check my phone until hours later, long after night swallowed the lake. 9 messages from Hannah. Where are you? Can we talk? Please don't do this. I need to explain. You're being unfair. I said I was sorry. At least tell me you're safe. David, this isn't you. I read them once and muted the thread. Claire noticed. You sure about that? I nodded. Not trying to scare her. I just need quiet. For once. She didn't press. Just handed me a mug, sat beside me. The fire crackled between us. I used to think love meant answering every call, I said quietly. Even if it tore me apart. Claire kept her eyes on the flames. And now? Now I think sometimes love is leaving, before you turn into someone you can't recognize. A faint smile curved her mouth. About time you figured that out. By morning, the phone was face down again. We hiked through mossy trails and twisted pines. She dared me to jump in the lake, ice cold, ridiculous, electrifying. We laughed like kids, like friends, like people remembering what joy feels like when it isn't conditional. Hannah's messages kept coming, sharper, then pleading. Panic dressed up as anger. David, I screwed up. Please come home. We can fix this. That woman, Claire, she's poisoning you against me. Are you sleeping with her? Is that what this is about? That one stung. Not because it was true, but because she still didn't understand. This wasn't revenge. This was silence reclaimed from the noise of her lies. By the third night, I sat on the porch, phone dark in my hand. Claire stepped out. You okay? She asked. I will be. She sat next to me. No touch, no questions, just presence. She'll keep texting, Claire murmured, until she realizes the person she's writing to isn't there anymore. I glanced at her and she clarified. Not here, there, that house, that version of you. I nodded, and for the first time in days I replied, let's meet, just us, one night, like before. Her answer was instant. Yes, anything. My fingers hovered, then typed, I'll book the hotel. She was 15 minutes early. I saw her first, standing near the glass sculpture she once mocked for being pretentious. Her hair curled softly, makeup understated in that intentional way. I recognized the effort behind it, the practiced hope. I walked through the revolving door, overnight bag in hand, wearing the cologne she used to love back when she still noticed. Her face lit too quickly, relief bleeding into nerves. You came, she said, almost breathless. I nodded. You look rested. She gave a brittle laugh. Not even close. We checked in together. The concierge didn't flinch when I requested the 10th floor suite. The same one. The elevator ride was thick with silence. Heavy, not hostile. Her hand brushed mine once. I didn't move. She didn't try again. Room 1004. She slowed at the number. This is the same one, she whispered. You remembered? I met her eyes. Didn't have to. The door opened. Same velvet headboard. Same faint trace of eucalyptus oil. Same memory ghosting the air. She stepped inside carefully, like her footsteps might stir up old accusations. I didn't plan it, she said quietly. I didn't know. I set the bag down. Right, you only packed deodorant. The words froze her. Her eyes glistened, caught between apology and defense. David, this isn't how I ever wanted the truth to come out. I never meant for you to hear it this way. Honestly, I never meant for it to happen at all. My voice caught on every word, shaking with a weakness I despised. She only blinked at me, silent. Somehow that silence struck harder than any accusation. I wandered toward the window, drawn by the city's soft neon glow. Far below, headlights drifted like quiet fireflies through endless streets, strangers living their lives, oblivious to ours unraveling above them. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. Steady, unflinching, a mask I refused to drop. Behind me, she sat hunched on the edge of the bed, fingers tangled nervously in her lap. I had convinced myself this trip might mend us, maybe even start us over. I'd been wrong. I finally turned. You tried to start over in this room 3 nights ago. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came, no excuses, no denial. I crossed the carpet one measured step at a time, stopping just short of her feet. Show me, I said, my voice low. Her brows furrowed. Show you what? Where you lied. She lifted her gaze to mine then. The fatigue etched into her face outshone whatever makeup she'd tried to wear like armor. Her whole body seemed to fold inward, trembling under the weight of everything unsaid. I didn't want this, she whispered. I was terrified. We were falling apart. I thought... You thought I wouldn't see, I cut in. You thought staying quiet would make it harmless. Tears caught in her throat. I was wrong. I gave a slow nod, reached into my coat pocket, and set a neatly folded stack of papers, divorce documents, on the nightstand beside her. No shouting, no theatrics, just clean endings. Her eyes widened. I didn't come here to scream, I said evenly. I came so you'd sit in this silence, so you'd feel what you left behind. She didn't wipe her tears. Maybe finally she knew they were earned. I turned for the door. Her voice followed, thin and desperate. David, don't walk away like this. My hand lingered on the handle. I glanced back once. I'm not walking away, I said softly. I'm releasing you. The latch clicked shut. No slam, no victory, just quiet, the kind that rewires a man from the inside out. I didn't hurry down the hallway. My steps were slow, deliberate, the same pace I used when inspecting a work site, the kind that doesn't look over its shoulder. The elevator took its time, long enough for the aftershock to settle. Behind that door, she was likely still sitting on the bed, staring at papers, at the silence, at the ruins of something that had ended long before I admitted it. Outside, the city breathed, cars slid past, sidewalk laughter floated through the night. Life carried on without us. For the first time in years, I wasn't part of someone else's chaos. When I got home, stillness met me at the door. No tension clinging to the walls, no rooms holding their breath. The house felt different, reverent almost, like it understood something was finally over. Claire was already there. She didn't demand details when I walked in, just arched an eyebrow at a quiet question. I gave one nod. She held up a bakery box. Key lime pie, she said. Felt appropriate. We ate it on the back deck, under stars so sharp they seemed cut from glass. Almost cinematic, the kind of night you imagine belongs to someone finally at peace with himself. Claire swung her legs up on the railing, voice calm, unhurried. So, that was the hotel? I nodded again. She broke. Claire gave a small nod of her own. A mutual understanding, unspoken. I always wondered, she murmured, how you'd handle it. If she ever— I didn't handle her, I said gently. I handled myself. A hint of a smile curved her lips. Best answer you've ever given. No fireworks followed, just the soft relief of no more lies. Days later, 3 quiet knocks broke that peace. Familiar, hesitant. Claire looked at me. Want me to— Go ahead, I said. She slipped inside. The front door creaked open. Warm light spilled onto the porch, framing a silhouette I knew without needing to see her face. Hannah, Claire said, her tone even. You're looking for David? Yes, came the soft reply. He's not here, Claire answered, kind but certain. He's moved on. No raised voices, no slammed doors, just closure. Claire shut the door gently and returned to the deck, handing me the last bite of pie off her fork. Stars look brighter tonight, she whispered. I leaned back, drawing in air that finally felt clean. So does everything. The quiet that followed surprised me. Not emptiness, stillness. Hannah never came back. No letters, no calls, no tearful speeches on the doorstep. Just the slow fade of something already long dead. Even the house felt lighter, no more tension in the floors, no more careful steps. Claire and I never put names to whatever this was. That was the beauty of it. Some nights she stayed, and we'd talk about architecture, books, and the strange grace of second chances. Other nights she didn't come at all. That was fine, too. No grasping, no proving, no apologies for needing space. She'd show up with odd grocery experiments, figs with brie, tahini with dark chocolate, and we'd taste them like kids at summer camp. Sometimes she left behind a scarf, a bottle of lavender oil, a pen she swore drew perfect circles, but never expectations. 2 weeks after the hotel, she brought fresh berries and a stolen pie recipe. We sat under string lights I'd finally hung, a promise I once made Hannah and never fulfilled. We didn't talk much that night, didn't need to, until Claire nudged me, nodding skyward. You know, she said, for someone who builds structures, you're finally learning to live without scaffolding. I chuckled. Guess it took a collapsed marriage to figure that out. Funny, she said, stretching out her arms. You look taller now. We stayed there, shoulder to shoulder, not holding, just resting, until the doorbell rang. Not a knock, a chime. Claire glanced at me. Want me to? I nodded. I stayed on the deck listening to fragments, Hannah's quiet plea, Claire's steady reply. I'm not here to fight, Claire told her. There's nothing left to win. He's not angry. He's not bitter. He's just finished. The door closed softly. Claire came back, drying her hands on a dish towel like she'd just rinsed off the past. She dropped off some old books of yours, Claire said. Thought you might want them. I looked at the stack. I used to. She set them down. Didn't ask. Just returned to her seat beside me. After a while, she asked, if someone told you a year ago this is where you'd end up, would you believe them? No, I said. That's how you know it's real, she smiled. Stars burned above us, distant and unbothered. I raised my glass. To endings, Claire clinked hers against mine. To truth, we drank. And for the first time in years, nothing tasted like compromise. And that's where this story ends. Share your thoughts in the comments. If it spoke to you, explore more stories on the channel. Until next time.